Hi, everyone. Welcome to this edition of TADA Talks. My name is Todd Burgon. I'm the Executive Director of the TADA. Today on our podcast, we're going to be speaking to Mustafa Oweida. Mustafa is the Manager of Retail Solutions and New Business at Cox Automotive. And today's podcast is sponsored by Cox Automotive. Well, welcome, Mustafa. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you taking the time, and I appreciate your company, Cox Automotive Canada, for sponsoring today's podcast. How are you?
Good. How are you, Todd?
Fantastic. So, listen, this is a great topic you and I are going to dive into. It's inventory, it's websites, it's everything that people think they know about, but obviously the amount of information that you guys have and the research you do, there's lots that we can share with people. So let's start off with telling everybody a little bit about you. What do you do at Cox Automotive, and what divisions are you in at the company?
Absolutely. And again, thanks for having me today, Todd. I'm happy to drive more awareness on the importance of the virtual showroom and hopefully discuss some of the points on how dealers can extend their dealership experience online. I am the sales manager within the Retail Solutions division at Cox Automotive Canada. So I overlook the dealer.com, Kelly Blue Book, and Dealer Track sales team across the country.
Excellent. So, I mean, I know, and you know, that the dealership's presence online is certainly extremely important and has even gotten more and more important over the last year and a half. But, you know, let's just talk openly. Why is it important for dealers to extend their dealership experience? Some of them may say that, hey, you know, we're really good in this, but, you know, what would you say to a dealer that said, nah, we're good?
Absolutely. So I'd like to start off, I guess, by tying the importance of being a virtual showroom and providing a transparent experience online to dollars and cents.
Okay.
I think you and I can agree that dealers spend thousands of dollars on driving traffic to their website on a monthly basis, whether that's through advertising channels, search engine optimization, or having an internal marketing person do their online content. And all of that, Todd, is to get the customer to land on your website. But what are you expecting customers to do once they land on your website? I think that's the question that every dealer should be solving for. 75% of people discover their vehicle online. So a customer who lands on the dealership site looking for a vehicle, knowing that they've been on an OEM site or have been researching cars online, well, they're likely to know what they're looking to buy. And it's coming down to color options, maybe features and packages, and most importantly, what's in stock and the payment. So if you're not providing pictures on your vehicles or pricing what you have in inventory, you can expect a high bounce rate. And just to explain what a high bounce rate is when a customer lands on your website, goes to a page, and they would bounce right off. You may think they'll stop by your dealership or give you a call, but also think of how many did not and simply just went to another dealership website to look for more information. I kind of want to finish the answer to this question by giving a stat here. 53% of shoppers are willing to purchase a vehicle online. So that means 47% are not willing, but that does not mean they're not looking to configure their payments online or value their trade or select an aftermarket product. And the longer the customer is on your website, the more likely they are to convert, Todd.
So I see, you know, a mix. I see dealers that have pricing on their websites. Some of them link to third parties, some link back to the OEM. Some obviously are proprietary to what they have for their own businesses. But, you know, what do you think is holding some dealers back that may not put pricing or payments on their website? Why would you see the reluctancy? What's the logic that you think it is?
Absolutely. So some of the top reasons that I see or hear from dealers is they're afraid of losing gross, or they want the customer to be in the showroom so that they can be in better control of the deal. And some dealers just don't want to spend more money on their online tools. And how I address that, Todd, is being transparent and providing the tools that customers require to shop for a vehicle online is key to driving your business forward. And as technology evolves, we must evolve with it, or someone else will find another way to take it over or change the experience entirely. I think you might be able to share this feeling, but every conference I attend is always a constant reminder of how Uber was able to provide a seamless experience and solve our troubles of having to find a taxi without owning a single vehicle, or how Netflix changed how we rented movies from Blockbuster, and Blockbuster refusing to change, thinking that they can still be a giant in the market. And the examples are endless. Having an online experience does not mean less front-end or back-end gross, or driving away business because you're too transparent. In fact, Todd, online tools will help you because they showcase 100% of your products 100% of the time to 100% of the customers that are on your website. And allowing customers to configure their own payments on your website will help them understand what they can and cannot afford without any added pressure. And that will result in a stronger ROI for the dealership. I pulled some recent stats, and the stats show that over 54,000 credit apps have been submitted through the DealerTrack digital retailing tool year to date. And just under 22,000 were funded through the DealerTrack portal. So that's 40% of credit apps submitted online were funded. That tells us that digital retailing is not only about selling a vehicle online, but rather facilitating an easy and user-friendly experience when a customer starts shopping for a new or used vehicle.
Oh, those are pretty big numbers. I wasn't aware until just now. So, I mean, obviously COVID has changed the consumer car shopping journey online. I've asked a lot of people this question. I'll ask you the same. How do you think it's changed it?
For starters, I guess COVID has forced a lot of dealers to utilize some form of digital retailing tool on their website. And when dealers were forced to shut down at the beginning of the pandemic, we were extremely busy trying to enable all these digital retailing subscriptions on the website, putting up banners of how to shop from home, and a variety of other initiatives. And when you compare 2020 with 2019, we saw a 30% uptick in digital retailing subscriptions. So that means dealers were quick to look at how they can be more innovative with a more virtual showroom. And it was great. So the way it changed, Todd, is that consumers were adapting and they became even more virtual, getting at home test drives or deliveries, configuring their own payments on the dealership website, and even selecting aftermarket products. A couple of quick more stats here. In 2020, we saw a 30% increase in digital retailing leads. And we also saw a 39% increase in F&I products sold through a digital retailing tool. So in a nutshell, dealers were forced to change and car shoppers adapted to the change of a more virtual experience. And Todd, I can confidently say that now more than ever, customers are looking for the ability to transact online.
Yeah, I think that one of the things you said there is really interesting, the word adapt. I mean, society learned how to adapt to get their goods and whatever they needed during shutdowns and certainly, from an online perspective. I think that if I don't have at least 3 or 4 conversations every day about the companies that, are now the quote unquote disruptors that have accelerated their digital presence, that alone is an argument for the digital presence, of the dealerships to relook that. And a lot have. I mean, the good news is that what I do see is that I see a lot of our industry that has reacted to basically, I wouldn't use the word combat, but certainly complement the services that some of the disruptors are bringing in, but in a much more compliant way is the way that I'll say it. So I think that's a good thing. This is a bit of an ugly one. I mean, you drive around the city, I drive around the city, I drive around the province, and sadly, we're still seeing some challenges on inventory. It depends on the brand. Some brands are in pretty good shape, some brands are not. But what would you say to a dealer that says, well, I don't have any cars to sell, so with my lack of inventory, how am I supposed to adapt my online presence? And I think that's a fair question, but I know you've got a good answer. So help them understand how that they can still remain relevant in their market during some tough times with inventory.
Yeah, that's a very fair question, and it's a great question. And I always hear this question during meetings or at conferences as well, Todd. Now, to say the least, these times are very challenging for dealers. In fact, I've recently read a stat that says it's estimated that 7.7 million units of production will be lost in 2021. And in some areas of the country, factory orders are making up 90% of new vehicle sales. But the good thing is we can all agree that grosses are at all-time highs and dealers are very profitable. What we are seeing dealers do, though, is cut costs on various items that they thought they would need only when they had more inventory on their lot, like advertising channels or marketing campaigns and digital retailing tools. So my advice is to be cautious because you don't want to be playing catch up when we start seeing normality in inventory levels. Adapting by enabling a build and price tool on your website, promoting factory orders, and looking at ways to drive more trade-ins, those are all great ways to adapt in the current times that we're in. And I would also advise against changing your online experience too much. As I said earlier, during the pandemic, a lot of dealers enabled some form of digital retailing tool to increase their lead count and convert more customers. But what you've also done is create an experience that is user-friendly and more transparent for your customers. So don't look at removing digital retailing, but rather look at it as a way to facilitate an easier online buying journey for your customers.
Yeah, I think those are some great points. And I think that from a psychological perspective, that consumers are in a little bit different place than they were a couple of years ago. I have some of my friends when they reach out and they say, hey, listen, instead of them saying, who do I go buy a car from right now? They're asking me, how long will I have to wait? So like, it's no surprise the supply chain has affected a number of industries, right? And so to your point, I have to believe that, once we get into a position where inventory levels are back to where they should be, we're going to be back into that race for the eyeballs. We're going to be back into that race for programming from the OEMs and those types of things to move what I think hopefully is the surplus of inventory. So I couldn't agree with you more. Just a quick reminder that I'm speaking with Mustafa Oweida, who's the sales manager of retail solutions and new business at Cox Automotive Canada. Cox Automotive Canada has generously sponsored today's podcast. I have a couple more questions, and then I'll let you get back to your daily routine and take you off the pressure seat here. I know this is an ambiguous question, but from a Cox Automotive perspective, how can you support dealers in their online presence? Maybe some people aren't fully aware of, the suite of products. We all know you guys have a lot of companies underneath that name, but maybe just simplify it as to how you can support them in that vein.
Yeah. So Cox Automotive has an array of products that can support the dealer ecosystem, and they can provide a one-stop shop for your holistic solution. I think what's unique about Cox Automotive Canada, in a way, we provide you both the retail solutions like Dealer.com, DealerTrack, and Kelley Blue Book, and we tie it with our remarketing solutions like Manheim, Move It, Next Year, and Ready Logistics. And most importantly, Todd, our DealerTrack portal empowers both our digital retailing tool and our newly launched Build and Price, which integrates onto your Dealer.com website. And now we can add Kelley Blue Book to provide accurate valuations on vehicles, and we can push both the retail and remarketing sides of your business. That's just one aspect of supporting our dealers in their online presence. I'd like to say that we're also launching a number of exciting dealer-specific tools next year, so I encourage our dealers to check back in the spring.
So you're not here to tell me all about those new tools?
Not until they're launched.
Okay, well that's fair. Well, we plan on having our ACE event in the spring, which is in April, which is a huge event for our industry. So maybe that's a good place for you guys to be launching it. You take on a big presence at that show, so we'll talk about that. Okay, Mustafa. So let's finish off before I get to my famous question about one of the vehicles that you may have owned. Why don't I ask you to, in your own words, just provide a bit of a summary of what we spoke about and what dealers should be looking for, could take advantage of, during today's climate and beyond, based upon your knowledge and the tools that you've talked a little bit about today.
Absolutely. And I'd like to finish off with what I started with and say that your online presence is the most imperative part of your variable operations. So ensuring that your website is a mirror image of your showroom in the sense that it's not cluttered, easy to follow whether you're looking for sales, parts, or service, and making your website not only informational, but also transactional. So don't just add a lot of information, but give the customer the ability to book a service appointment or to reserve their vehicle online, and give your customer the ability to self-pencil their own deals and better understand what they can and cannot afford. This will help bridge the gap between the customer and the dealer. And make sure during a time where there isn't a lot of inventory that you have some form of build and price tool on your website, or at the very least, link the OEM build and price tool to your dealership website. People, Todd, have heard about chip shortages, but for some, they think it's an isolated scenario affecting something they've recently bought, like a laptop or maybe a fridge. So educate your customers on factory orders and why they would have to do that. I can tell you in my personal life, a lot of people don't know that used car prices are up or that there's barely any new cars on dealership lots. So find a way to educate your customers online before they walk into your showroom, and make sure you don't fall short in your online presence. Take this time to elevate your online to in-store experience to make for a stronger online presence.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to summarize things, and I always like to err on the side of positive energy. So yes, we know that right now they may not be in the inventory position that they want, but focusing on bringing those customers forward into 2022, and that they anticipate being in a much better position. Certainly are ways to get people's mindsets around that. So great advice, and a great way to kind of summarize our conversation from the business side.
Thank you.
So listen, I'm going to ask you one last question, and this is where it gets easy. I ask everybody the same question just to add a bit of fun to this. What was the first car that you ever bought, and what was the brand, the make, and what was the motivation, or what drove you to pick that vehicle? And I'm hoping you bought one.
Yeah, so during my university days, first car I bought which I don't want it to count, but it was a Chrysler Sebring.
Oh, that counts.
Yeah, but my first car shopping experience though, and I guess when I was graduated from university is I leased a Cadillac ATS. And I think that car, it was a great car. And I don't think a lot of people realize how good the residual was at the time. So I ended up doing a lease on a Cadillac ATS back, I think it was 2014.
You leased a Cadillac ATS as your first car?
After I bought that Chrysler Sebring during university, yes.
That's brilliant. I love it. That is brilliant. That's not too many people tell me that that's their first go-to. It's nothing with the brand at all, but that's awesome. Good for you. What made you pick that? Do you remember?
Yeah, you know what? I was very payment conscious. So a lot of what we spoke about today, I was very payment conscious at the time, and I wanted to drive a nice car per se, but my budget was still, as a growing adult and growing my career, I think, I had a limit within that payment, and the ATS had really strong residuals. 4-year lease at the time was a great payment. So it did me well.
Listen, I mean, we all have budgets regardless of where we're at. And as a new graduate, if that's your first car, then good for you. And you're still here to talk about it, which is even better, right?
Thank you. Yes, indeed.
Well, listen, I've enjoyed our time today. I really appreciate you sharing some of your expertise and some of the rationale that you have to keep dealers motivated as we go through, the next few months in managing what we have from not just inventory, but just, the environment in general. I want to thank your company once again, Cox Automotive Canada, for supporting this medium with us. We certainly appreciate it. And I look forward to when you and I can do this maybe one day in person, maybe in April at ACE, we can chat further about, what's happened between now and April. Seems like a year away, but it's not that far away.
Right. No, I appreciate this, Todd, and thank you for having me today. It's really been a true pleasure.
Excellent. Listen, this is Todd Burgon, Executive Director of the TADA, signing off for this edition of TADA Talks. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon.